So for this one, I'm going to do a watercolor method using alcohol inks. I'm just going to use 3 colors, keep it simple, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the foil flakes at some point. So what I have is 3 colors picked out. I'm just going to do pink, purple, and blue. I'm going to use Sapphire from Pixis. I'm going to put a little bit in a cup. I'm going to put my cups off to the side. I'm going to use Gumball from Tim Holtz. And I am going to use the Vineyard from Tim Holtz. So, I'm just setting these off to the side so I don't tip them over. And I have a 4th cup that I'm just going to put a little bit of regular isopropyl alcohol into, just so I have it if I need it. And I'm just going to start by grabbing a paintbrush and dipping it in, and I'm just going to pick a section and start coloring. Just at random. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit with the regular alcohol at some point. So if it looks a little bright and thick right now, it's fine. They can just be totally random. Bigger, smaller, however you want. Make sure you get some sections right up to the rim. Make sure you do some sections that work over the bottom. If you do your bottoms. Some people don't. If you tape off a rim and leave a rim, that's fine too. Just do it that way. I don't know what that little fleck is. Got it. But I have different brushes, so I'm not going to do them all with the big fat brush. The blue, I'm going to do a smaller brush, and I'm just going to come over right next to the other color. It's okay if you overlap a little bit. You're just going to keep working like this until the entire cup is filled in, section by section. Again, not forgetting the bottom. I'm doing this on a 20-ounce skinny from Makerflow, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. And I think I'm going to use the fat brush again for the purple. And where you overlap, you will reactivate the other colors a little bit. So if you overlap, use a coordinating color, please. I'm going to move most of these brushes out of the way. I'm going to keep one more for the plain alcohol. I'm going to come down and put some purple across the bottom. Sorry, I know it's hard to see, but I'm trying to see also. And I think I'm going to wrap that purple all the way up again into the pink. I like to get all my color on before I start with the plain alcohol. That's just my preference in doing this. I like to have a pretty solid start. Again, do your sections as big or small as you want. And blend them in however you want as you go. We'll blend them all in a minute, so. And then go back to the blue for a little bit. You can use colors that are more pastel if you want. It's up to you. Just again, I suggest coordinating colors. Don't do like a green over a purple where you're going to get a brown, because that's not going to make for a very pretty tumbler. Swipe some blue down this side. Let's see, put a little blue between these two. I'm going to go back into the pink. Do a wide swatch of pink here. And purple, I use the big brush. Do want to get a little more pink on the bottom, so I'm just going to kind of taper that off and go right back to the pink, because I only have a tiny bit of pink down here so far. And the pink's running away. come back in with a little more purple over here. You can just have fun with this. Make it be whatever you want it to be. It's my purple brush. I want my pink brush. I'm gonna stripe there. I'm gonna fill the rest of that with blue. And I went on a little heavier there, so it's gonna blend and flow on its own some, which is fine. I'm gonna do some blue up here. That blue's running a little bit, but we'll take care of that. Come in with the purple. And some more purple here. I'm going to fill that spot with pink. And that side will be coated completely. So, pink over here. And the further in you get, the more your brushes will start to mix and you'll start getting other color created. Which is perfectly fine. I have no problem with what this is doing. Just gonna finish that with a little bit of the blue. I'm gonna run a tiny strip of the blue over here again as well, just to separate it. And some purple. Fill the rest of this white top. Just looking at the bottom a minute, just to make sure it was fully covered. So I just have that tiny little piece that I'm going to fill with the pink. Okay, so I am full coverage on the color now. I'm going to set this down for 1 second. I do want something to blot this on. And I just have a roll of toilet paper in here, so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to dip my brush, blot it a little bit, because you don't want it wet. And I'm just going to start blending out a little bit. Around all of those edges. And you decide when you're done with this, when you've blended as much as you want blended. If you want to blend over your entire cup, you can. If you want to blend just a small section, but the more ink you put on it and blend, the more watercolor vibe it's going to get. Just try not to let it get too runny like that. And if your cup starts to get too dirty, you might need to grab a second one. One for like a rinse and one for a clean, if that makes sense. But you can stretch one dip pretty far if you want to. I mean, I definitely want to blend down the like hot pink color. I kind of like this mixed color I'm getting when I do. You can see how it's softening up. That's what you're going for. But if your alcohol starts getting too colored, like I said, you may want to switch cups out. So I'm going to grab another one over here. Just because I don't want to contaminate too much. Clean. So I'm just going to kind of stick to the pinks for a second while it's fresh and clean. Like this big spot. Just follow it wherever it takes you. The wetter you get it, the more it'll kind of move on its own, if that makes sense. And don't forget to do your bottom a little bit as well. especially if you had any spots that ran on the bottom like this one did. This pink spot ran all over. So, I went with darker colors just so they'd be like more visible for you guys. You could do muted pastels, any colors you want. But I'm just going to spin it around and take a look at it and see if there's any spots I don't particularly like. But I think I'm pretty close to happy with this as it is. I have that bright pink up here still. One little dot there. But I'm pretty happy with this, so I'm going to leave it alone at this point. I'm going to let it sit a little bit. I'm actually going to grab my pink brush if I can find it and bring just the tiniest little bit of pink back in if I can to like up here. And actually very carefully going to put a drop of pink right on and blend it out. Just because I wanted less bright pink, but I didn't want any of that color at all to stay. I didn't not want any of that color to stay, however I'm trying to say it. I still wanted some of the pink. So that is it. I'm kind of, I don't know that I'm going to put the gold leaf on. I was going to run some veins of gold leafing on here, but now that I'm seeing it, I'm kind of, I think I'm just going to use like a cheat glitter and leave it alone. So I think I'll do that. I think I'll come in with the cheat glitter and call it good. Or maybe I will grab a silver paintbrush, you know, paint marker, and just chase or a gold paint marker and drag a couple of lines. I think I'm going to do it that way, just to give it that little bit of interest. So, is this focusing? I don't really know. But I will be back after this sits for a little bit. Okay, so I'm coming back to this one, and I think that it's sort of too bright to be a true watercolor. So I did paint another cup to do in lighter shades, but I'm going to go a different direction with this one. I'm going to take a mini mister and spritz the cup. This is just 91% alcohol in here. You don't want to overdo it because you can always add more, but you cannot take away. So hopefully you'll be able to see what happens when I mist it. I'll make sure it's spraying. You can see that it pebbled it. Again, you don't want to do too much. I'm just kind of watching it react and looking at it. But just a little spritz. here and there. Okay, so I think that's enough for now. I can come back in and do a little bit more in a second. Now, while this is drying, what I'm going to do is take I was going to use a paint pen, but I think I'm going to go ahead and stick to alcohol inks. So I'm going to use my Pinata Rich Gold. I'm going to set this down a second, because these metallics, any kind of metallic ink, you really need to shake well. And I'm just going to take a paintbrush for this step. This is just a little backing paper from vinyl. And I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little bit of gold lines. So I'm just going to blot a little bit out on there. I'm going to leave the top off because I'll probably go back to that for some more. But I'm just going to pick a line and kind of paint some on. To give it some veining. And this one I'm just going to give the tiniest little bit of a decal, I think. And I might throw a little cheat glitter at it. I'm going to go back over the line as it dries, just to deepen it up. And you can fatten it up in some areas. I'm not going to go over the entire cup this way, just some spots here and there for a little bit of visual interest. I'm going to go around here, I think. And this will also pick some of the color back up, so you do have to keep working it and picking up more gold. It'll kind of reactivate the color underneath, just like any regular ink or alcohol would. But I think I'm just going to do one of those simple, like just unbreakable on it, because that seems to be one of the trendier things right now. I'm going to feather this down to a little skinnier line through here. I'm going to leave this one here where the color breaks and continue this one on just a little bit. I don't want to do a ton, but I just want enough. And kind of decide where you want maybe one more or two more. Like in here. So I'll find a piece of gold vinyl just to cut that single word down. I'm going to go over this again, maybe add one or two more lines. Nothing major. just going to give it the slightest hint of the cheap glitter when I do that part in a little bit here. Just building that gold color. And this should be dry enough to build on. This one's not going to be a true, like, the unbreakable cup because I didn't put any, like, brick wall or anything behind. But kind of similar concept overall. And this happens. You start one direction and you end up veering off course and going a completely different way. Make sure I get my bottom where I went over a little bit. And I already did when I tested it, draw a little line down here, so I'm going to go back over that. Just because I did spritz over it, so. And I don't want to spritz over the gold. Kind of hugging that pink piece. So, I'm just going to kind of look and see if I'm touching that wet gold on the bottom. That's stupid. Oops. But I don't really think it needs more than that because you don't want it to get too overpowered. This is where that bottom vein is. I'm going to bring it up just along the edge there. I think I'm good with just that little bit of gold. So I'm going to let this sit and dry a bit and then come back in with the clear coat and sheet. Okay, it is time to clear coat this one. I am just getting my gloves on. I have my resin mixed. Now, I told you I was going to put a cheat on this one, and I am. I'm going to use my It's Pretty Personal Girl's Best Friend sheet that I love to use. I'm just going to give it a tiny little bit. But I am also going to put just a tiny bit of this champagne colored glitter in here. Like, that's it. Just because I think it'll play nicely off the gold lines. So, and this resin, this is the last of 5 cups I'm doing in a row, so this resin's getting a little bit thick, so spreading it'll be a little bit harder, but it'll be fine. So, I might put just, no, I don't want to put more in there. I think that's good. Alright, and I'm just going to apply it. See, once it starts going on the cup, the glitter is barely there. Just a little something extra. And I don't really want to overwork this too much more than is necessary. But just because I don't want the inks to shift. And I can see this is tilting down. I will get that fixed when it's coated. So it's all on. I'm gonna get it spread evenly. And again, since this one veered off course and didn't end up being a watercolor, I am going to do another one in watercolor. This is super pretty though. I really like it. Fairly simple overall, but very pretty. Okay. So I'm just gonna make sure I have the rim good and covered. The bottom. All right. It's just such a pretty sparkle with the glitter. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit it with the heat gun real quick. Or not the heat gun, the torch. Sorry. Just to get any remaining bubbles. Always keep your torch moving. Don't sit in one place. And don't forget the bottom. So that is it for this one for now. I will be back when this is ready for its decal. Okay, time to get some resin on this one. I didn't go with the unbreakable because I didn't do the brick and it's not truly a rendition of that cup. So I went with something different. I went with some butterflies and some dandelions, and the decal says just breathe. So I have my resin mixed up. I'm going to go again with the Girl's Best Friend sheet and the champagne that I used on the last coat. Just a tiny bit again. Just for a little more sparkle. Okay, so this one started as a watercolor and kind of morphed into a distressed watercolor, I guess we'll call this one. The glitter will kind of break up the white where these decals are bigger. It's cute and springy. I'm giving this about a 20 milliliter coat. Some good coverage. Don't forget the bottom. And I will show you the bottom of this when it's done. It does have a decal across the bottom. Because I like to a lot of the time do that. Just for a little extra bonus. have it pretty warm in here, so my epoxy is spreading nicely. So that is it. I will get this moved and leveled up, and I don't even think I need to torch this one. Honestly, I don't see any bubbles. And that went on super smooth. So I will come and show you this when it is done. I'm going to move it over and get it leveled since it's tilty. And the not so watercolor, Just Breathe. With all these little butterflies and sparkle. And it's got a couple more of the flowers, the dandelion, to match the Just Breathe. And then the bottom has this. So this is my bright watercolor turned distressed